Hello, hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. On today's episode, we'll be looking at a story called the Laurel and Hardy Alpha Centauri Farewell Tour. It is the 13th of 25 short stories in his 2002 collection, One More for the Road. And here we go. The way these videos work is I do a brief synopsis of what happens in the story, and then I just very briefly try to analyze it. Tell you what I think and feel about the story. Is it a good story? Is it worth your time? Where does it stack up against the greats of Ray Bradbury's career? So here we go. 200 years after their death, Laurel and Hardy get off a spaceship on one of the planets around Alpha Centauri. They step off the ship, which for a moment looks like a Model T, and they walk into the bar and they begin to have drinks with the bartender. And in a whole lot of exposition, they explain that they are in fact clones using DNA from their original graves, and that in this 200 years since their death, people traveling out to the stars on these long journeys began to feel depression and loneliness and sadness, and so something had to be done to make people happy again so far away from their homes. So there they were, black and white skin and all, because apparently the first time they tried it, they just didn't look like Laurel and Hardy when you see them in color, which is, a real thing as far as filmmaking goes. They further go on to explain their belief that the universe is eternal and that it always was and always will be, and this attracts some unwanted attention. A group of zealots sort of barges into the bar and they say no clones, and only Jesus can rise again, and a whole lot of that stuff which we've heard here on Earth from time to time. They hide until the group leaves, and then they sort of wrap up the whole day by performing a whole bunch of their classic skits using the aid of virtual reality and holograms and things like that. And then they leave, and people are still crying, but they're crying from joy rather than from loneliness. Okay, so Bradbury was a big Laurel and Hardy fan, as best as I can tell. They come up in several of his stories. There's one story that he did, which I've reviewed, which was Another Fine Mess, and it involves their ghosts actually carrying a piano up and down the steps, famously, time and time again, like every night in the dark. And then they've come up on other occasions. This one it's fun, it's fast, it's frenetic, it's a lot of fun to read. It attempts to get into debates about creation and cosmology and religion and, the Big Bang and nature versus a religious beginning to the universe and an end to the universe. And all of that is done sort of very briefly in a lot of exposition, so it doesn't quite work. It doesn't really get into those things very deeply, but it is what it is. It all works sort of because it is short, fast, frenetic. You can't help but read it fast. I found myself just barreling through this story, and I had to go back a couple of times to make sure I had read what I read, and actually to bring it all, internalize it, because I actually just sort of almost glanced over it because it's just so much fun to read, just the way the prose works and the pacing. But it's not exactly a deep examination of any of these topics. But there's more important topics going on, better themes that I think are more important to the story, more central to the story. One is the idea of loneliness from leaving Earth, and sort of this idea that Earth is our home. It's sort of ingrained in us. It's in our DNA, and how will people deal with that on these long journeys to the stars, should they ever take place? Even to planets in our own solar system and moving there if colonization ever happens. How will people deal with that loneliness? And I tend to think that there's going to be different types of people. I think I'm always a very homebound person. I get comfort from home, but I think there's always people around us who are just globetrotters. They call no place home, but they're at home everywhere. So it'd be interesting to see, in our own reality, how do we deal with that? Do the right people, only certain types of people take these journeys, or is it for everyone? And then I think the other central theme here is the power of laughter and comedy, not just to heal us and to make us feel at home and make us feel connected to our roots, but also the immortality of humor. This is 200-year-old humor that people are still laughing at this point. So I think that says a lot about good humor, certain types of humor, the types of humors that people like. Classics never die, that sort of thing. But yeah, that is it. Not the greatest story, but also a lot to think about crammed into a very small space. But there it is. I'd recommend it. I don't think you're going to read it again, probably. But I think just once, I think you'll enjoy it. You'll take away several different things to think about. But there it is. All right, then. Next time we'll be looking at story number 14 of 25 in this collection as we get over the hump and we head downhill towards the end. And that story is Leftovers. So be sure to tune in again next week to find out about that. But thank you and enjoy a good book. It looks like it's going to rain again today. Not happy about that, but rainy days do make good reading days. So thank you, and I will see you again soon.